What is going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of the 5-1 Formation Podcast. My name is George, and I will be your host for today. And joining me are Tommy and Anthony.
What's happening, bro?
What's going on, guys? All right, so today we're going to be covering Premier League action that happened over the weekend and a bit on Monday also. So the first game we're going to tackle is Everton losing their first game of the season to Southampton to a score of 2-0. I want to know what you guys think where does Everton stand at this point in time? And Anthony, I'll start with you.
It's tough. I mean, it's tough to say because they came out to start off the season very well. They were all in sync with one another, so it's tough to say. I mean, I think they definitely have a good chance to. They have what it takes. They have the team in front of them to make a push for the top five. To say a Champions League spot is a stretch a bit, but if they remain consistent and everyone stays healthy, possibilities are endless for them because they have the squad to do it.
Tommy?
Like I said last time when we spoke about Everton, it was hard to put them up high because I find a lot of teams, especially last season, had this season when the big teams are starting slow, not getting the results that they're supposed to be getting. So I find Everton now you're gonna start seeing not to put them down, but you're gonna start seeing their true colors now. They're not gonna be as dominant. They're gonna look normal, and for sure gonna finish top 10, maybe top 8, top 7. But yeah, I don't see a Champions League spot for them.
Okay, so I would like to say, for me, for that game, it was more about Southampton playing a very good football match. They played very well collectively. Defensively too, they played like a very solid. They played like a unit, and it showed even in the Chelsea game that they played the week before. So they're obviously hungry. They're obviously there to contend. Danny Ings looked pretty good too. Che Adams also. So I would like to say that that they brought it to Everton, and it was just a matter of time that Everton were gonna kind of slip up. Let's just say.
Yeah.
Hopefully they could bounce back. This week they're playing Newcastle, so should be an easier game for them.
Mm-hmm.
And that's just to remind everybody also that Everton is still in first place with goal differential. Liverpool being in second place. So speaking of Liverpool, we're gonna jump to Liverpool right now. They're back to winning ways, and they played against, Tommy, remind me real quick. I don't have it here.
Sheffield.
They played Sheffield. So,
yeah.
I mean, the biggest thing with Liverpool right now, and I'm pretty sure we've mentioned it before, is that where do they stand without Virgil van Dijk? And where do they stand without, what's his name? Fabinho, who we learned today got subbed off in the Champions League fixture. So this is pretty huge for them. Tommy, I want to know what you think.
Well, we knew losing Virgil van Dijk would be very bad for Liverpool because, he's their rock of their whole team. He controls the back. His aerial threat's dangerous. You can't get a header against him. So losing him, losing Alisson, losing Fabinho, and now also Matip, it's very tough now for Liverpool. But without those players, they still won 2-1, which still, against Sheffield, they're not as dominant as last season. They shouldn't have been this close in the scoreline. So it just shows that Liverpool now are showing that they're not as dominant without their key players missing. And now they're feeling what other teams were facing last season with injury problems. Because last season they didn't have any. They had a bit of a small stint of Alisson. So now let's see how they're going to adapt. It wasn't a dominating win. It was very close, 2-1 victory. Jota with a late winner. Yeah, man.
And just to comment on that, Alisson is back in the starting lineup, so it's good to see that their starting goalkeeper is back in nets. Anthony, I just wanted to get real quick what you wanted to say, or if you had anything to say.
No. Tommy summed it up well. I mean, he's the backbone for the team. It's a lot of teams have that backbone figure on their team where they have that confidence whenever they're on the pitch, right? Same thing with Juve and Chiellini. Whenever he's on, there's that safety blanket that you have when a player like that is on the field, and it's tough because that's definitely probably the most significant injury they're going to suffer. To be without him for a while is going to be tough for them. It's going to be a huge battle. Fabinho now is injured as well. It's going to be tough to pull through, but that shows the character of the team, how they can fight adversity. It was. I also found it interesting that they were playing with a 4-2-3-1 with Salah as their number 9. I found that pretty interesting.
Yeah.
But I guess you're going to want to try out something and see if it worked or not. But at the end of the day, they squeezed out 3 points, which was the most important thing. But let's see how they do in the future with now Fabinho out and how they go about things. Maybe they'll bring up. Actually, they have Phillips and Williams as another D-man. They might slot back. So we'll see. And just to correct, before when we were talking about Everton, they're actually playing Villa this week on the 1st, and they're playing Newcastle on the 6th. So it's a pretty simple wins. They should get the dubs from both games, but yeah, those were my thoughts on Liverpool.
Well, it's funny that you mentioned that because next up I have is the Leeds and Aston Villa game, and you're saying it might be easy for them to play Villa, but I wouldn't count Villa out, even though Leeds came up big against Villa, and Patrick Bamford scoring a hat-trick. Which was pretty huge because Villa too, another shocker, or a team that's been kind of turning heads in the Premier League. They've been off to a great start. They lost their first game against Leeds, like I just said. So where does Villa stand in all of this now?
Well, I'll go first. Aston Villa, you see now what you said, George. You said it was a shocker defeat. But you have to sit back and realize it's Aston Villa, no dig at them. But Everton and Aston Villa now have been on a hype train. They've been on a nice roll. Their team is gelling. Everything's going their way. But we can't start putting them like, oh, Villa lost. That's big. We have to realize that we're not talking about like Liverpool, any of the top teams. So obviously you knew they were going to slip up. We knew Leeds could score. Leeds don't have a problem with scoring. They have a problem with defending. So you knew that there was going to be a high-scoring game, but for Villa to get shut out, especially how Barkley's been playing, how Grealish has been playing, to have a goose egg on the score sheet, it's big, like you said, George. Especially the run that they've been on, their hot streak.
For sure. Diso?
Yeah, I think at the end of the day, I mean, if Everton, just take a step back and reevaluate their game that they played this weekend, and just correct their mistakes. Just on talent alone, they should get the job done. I mean, I know Aston Villa have been off to a great start this season, but it's mostly from, they're playing well. They're very well organized. They're doing the job. They're all doing their roles. They're all doing their part. But at the end of the day, I mean, talent should take over at the end of the day. And their momentum slowly regressed and wore off a bit during that Leeds game. Because, still getting 6 points between Liverpool and Leicester game is still a huge positive note for Villa fans, that's for sure.
For sure. Again, guys, we're rolling very well with this podcast right now. But you mentioned Leicester, and that was the next team that I wanted to talk about, or more for Arsenal. So, no party for Thomas Partey, but definitely a party for Jamie Vardy.
That's it, George.
Jesus Christ.
So Arsenal played Leicester over the weekend, and Leicester City ended up winning 1-0. Jamie Vardy coming off of the bench at the 60th minute, and 20 minutes later scoring the only goal of the game. And just very non-clinical on Arsenal's side. And for Leicester, it's more of the fact that they can't do anything without Jamie Vardy. So I want to know, because we don't speak about Arsenal enough on this podcast, I find. I want to know, where do you guys think they stand in the mix-up of things? Well,
we know now that the past couple of weeks, we see that their forwards are starting to click better. But yet again and again, for the past couple of seasons, it's their defense. Their defense isn't as strong as it was when Arsenal were the hottest team back then. That's what they've been lacking. So them having 3 defeats now under their belt, I'm going to put it all on the defense, because you see these defensive mistakes, these passing back, these They can't clear the ball properly. There's no gel. So that's where I put the Arsenal's biggest defect in the team is all their defense.
Anthony?
I agree. I agree too. I mean, David Luiz is a huge liability. Bellerin is forced to play center back when he's clearly not. Obviously, you guys know my thoughts when we see fullbacks getting converted to center backs when, especially when they're playing three at the back too. If
For
they're
sure.
playing four at the back, fine. But obviously, that's not the case here. But it's definitely Arteta can only do so much. I mean, he did transform this team. But in terms of structure and organization, they're definitely a different team compared to past coaches. Well, Unai Emery rather. Basically, and also not only that, is also just lack of being clinical up front too. Like I'm seeing some chances sometimes from Aubameyang and Lacazette. They're not putting it in at the end of the day. So I don't think Aubameyang belongs on the wing, even though how fast he is, to be honest. But I rather have him on top. As a number 9, I'll also play with 2 strikers rather if you have to, but I know they want to implement Saka as much as possible because he's a stud and he has so much potential, and I look forward to see him grow in the future. But I think the main issue definitely would be the back line, that's for sure.
Yeah,
for sure. So if I can just make a comment about Arsenal, it would be that game actually, David Luiz ended up picking up an injury, so to add all of this disastrous defending that we're speaking about, he gets subbed off, and then Mustafi comes on, who does even more of a worse job than David Luiz. And Arsenal, or I should say Arteta, is in a position right now where he can't play a more suitable formation, like a 4-3-3 or 4-2-3-1, where he's using the players that he has, so he's kind of stuck with playing 3 center backs and playing with the wing backs.
Yeah.
So by doing that, it doesn't allow you to have more of the attacking options, like Anthony said, like having 2 strikers or playing with 3 in the front or etc. So they definitely have a lot of figuring out to do. And like you said too, being clinical, it was like a huge part of that game, and they weren't. And they ended up paying the price for it.
Yeah.
All right, so moving on. City drew to West Ham 1-1. Another team that seems to be struggling also. What's going on with City?
Go for that.
I mean, a numerous amount of things. I mean, honestly, I didn't actually watch that game, so it was tough to tell. I mean, but then again, I mean, I know they've been struggling also on their part to bagging some goals, but today they look very well. They look very solid today against Marseille. It was a big win for them. So I guess it's just having the team gel together a bit more. I find Gundogan as well very out of place too when he does get the starting position. I find he slows down the game way too much in terms of the type of pace they want to go through. And they honestly need to consistently start Foden because it's clearly he's a difference maker now. At this point, he's already showing it that at 20 years old. We saw it today as well. I mean, he really needs to start regularly, honestly.
Mm-hmm.
So a thing that I did realize during the game, I didn't watch the game, but I caught a bit of the highlights, is that Aguero ended up starting, but at the half he came off for Foden, who ended up converting a goal.
Yeah.
So now my question is to you guys: is Aguero not what he used to be, or where does Aguero stand with all of this? Because obviously, right now, as we speak, City are struggling to put the ball in the back of the net. Yeah. Aguero is or was that guy to do that, but he hasn't seen. Yeah. He seems to be underperforming. So I want to know what your thoughts on it.
Well, the reason for that is obviously the skills there. This guy is one of the top strikers in the world, but everyone knows that every season he always has an injury scare. He's always dealing with a knock. He's always dealing with an injury. So him starting the game and being subbed off at halftime has to do with fitness and injury. Has Pep taking care of Aguero, not overplaying him, not burning him out? So will we see classic Aguero again? Who knows? Maybe he gets fully healthy in the next coming weeks. Hopefully he doesn't get injured again. But it just shows having Aguero injured and not performing at his top level. You see now that City's lacking those goals that they've been getting the past couple of seasons from him. The over 20 goals a season guaranteed. Hopefully now Gabriel Jesus could step up, take the reins, and start banging up some goals. And obviously, I want to give a nice little shout out to Phil Foden, like Anthony said. Kid's a stud, man. The kid's proving to himself, proving to City, proving to the fans that he's here to stay, and he's a top player, man.
Disa?
Yeah, I agree, man. Because honestly, with now Aguero out for a month, I mean, I don't think Gabriel Jesus has actually returned to training yet. I think he's still recovering from his injury too, so that's a huge blow. I mean, this is them having to rely on their wingers to become a striker now. We saw it today as well. I think Ferran Torres was playing as their number 9. So it's gonna be tough for them to. I mean, they have the talent. They have enough talent up front to put the ball in the net either way, despite not having their number 9. But sometimes it does play a factor, and they're definitely gonna suffer, and it's gonna be a lot of grinding to get the ball in back to the net at the end of the day during these upcoming games until at least Jesus comes back. And hopefully Aguero recovers quickly as well. But I hope City start proactively looking for another striker because Aguero, man, it's time, bro. It's like, honestly, you can't have it because you never know. You cannot rely on somebody. Honestly, we have to rely on Jesus being healthy because now it's almost a guarantee that he's going to be injured now. Aguero. Right? Yeah. So God forbid Jesus doesn't get injured because you're going to be stuck in this type of situation again. I know we have these academy players like Palmer and Katz, whoever's on the bench there. So they need to start looking at potential replacements. You know, obviously you can never replace who Aguero is and what he's done for this organization and this franchise.
Yeah.
But that star caliber player, you need to start looking at.
And just before we leave that game, if you guys haven't checked out Michail Antonio's goal, go check it out. Quite a goal he scored against Manchester City.
Yeah.
All right. Next up, we have Chelsea and Manchester United. So obviously a big game for both clubs. But I'm just going to say this. I'm just going to speak on behalf of Chelsea because I really don't care about United, but that's just me. So considering the last fixture that we had, which was Champions League against Sevilla, and the one before that, Chelsea are going through some sort of dramatic change now, keeping clean sheets, defending very well, not conceding at all. But now, because of that, they're not scoring goals and not producing. So Frank Lampard needs to find the balance with both having good defense, keeping clean sheets, but also producing. So now we're seeing like two extremities. And United, that game against United, I'd say, for me, if you give me man of the match, it'd be Edouard Mendy. This guy, there's a reason why we bought him, because I can guarantee you those 3 big chances that United had, if Kepa was in nets or even Caballero, the game was done. It would have been United's game, and that's it. That's all. So that's all I have to say about Chelsea and United. Yes, okay, you're going to have your controversial VAR checks and whatnot, but it is what it is. I put that behind me, and I look forward. I don't know if you guys have anything else to comment. Tommy?
Yeah, just Manchester United, man. Like, how do you come from beating PSG 2-1 in France, then you come back to EPL against Chelsea and put on a performance like that? Like, for me, and like Alex stresses this week in, week out, Rashford being the striker does not work. Rashford plays his best soccer on the wing. Like at this game, why not put Rashford on the wing? Start Cavani. Cavani's been playing for practice. He's been training well. He's healthy, fully fit. Start him. You know that's where you're gonna get the goals. With Martial not playing, and this lineup was a joke. I don't know how you have Pogba on your team and you don't start him. Like he's been on the bench. How many games now this season? I don't understand this lineup that Ole came out with. Not strong at all. I don't know what else
Or
to say
even
about United.
or even Van de Beek.
Like, he's coming out and saying, him and his agent, you see that they're frustrated, they're pissed off. There's now headlines saying, do you think Van de Beek regrets choosing Manchester United? Like, the guy's healthy. He's a great player. You know what he's capable of doing. But yet you start Mata. Like, at this game, why are you starting Mata? Why are you starting James? You're facing Chelsea. It's a big game. I don't understand this lineup. I don't understand United this season. And yeah, I don't know what else you have to say about the game, but
Well, Cavani, I mean, he hasn't played in like what? I don't know how many days, so obviously he wasn't ready to start, bro. I mean, he will start eventually. Same thing with Dybala. He only started this weekend finally, and because at first they weren't starting, they weren't being patient with him because he hasn't trained that much. He hasn't been fully fit, so you have to gradually implement him on the squad. I agree that Rashford doesn't belong as a number 9, but if that was the only option for that game, then so be it. I don't agree with Daniel James starting during this, like you mentioned, a pretty big game against Chelsea. He's a decent depth player to have on your team, but we've seen it now recently that it doesn't offer that much. He has the pace, he brings it up, he's just very direct. It doesn't offer anything once he gets into that near box area. He won't create something out of nothing. He won't juke somebody out or give it like a decent cross. But he's. I don't think it's also, you can even argue that whether or not he's even United quality or not. And I know I was having this conversation with some of our United friends that they might even agree on the same thing. Maybe might have to part ways, but he's still an option. I mean, for him to come off the bench, he's only 22. I mean, you never know what can happen in the future in his development, but he should not be starting during the Chelsea game. I mean, you have Mason Greenwood there on the bench. You should have been starting rather than him. Mata, I mean, whatever. He's class. He's very intelligent on the ball. So he didn't have really, from what I was watching from that game, he was very solid. He never really makes any inaccurate passes. He's very you know what you'll get from him. He's very solid. He won't do anything crazy. He's very classy.
And he did have a big chance, like I said. But Edouard Mendy, he came up big. So yeah, that's pretty much it for that game. And you want to say something?
Yeah, just to add on to the Van de Beek coming out. Honestly, this looks like more and more that it was just a panic buy. Because there was even one game where he came off the bench and he scored. He came off the bench and he was a difference maker in the game. It doesn't make sense how they're not starting him. I understand that McTominay and Fred have been very solid recently. Start off the season. But you need to figure out how to implement this guy and give him more playing time because he got 0 minutes this game. It doesn't make sense. Like, why did you buy him?
And the game you're talking about, Ant, was his debut game, coming off the bench and scoring a goal. Like, you're going to get goals. You guys are lacking goals. Put him in. Not playing 1 minute like it's a joke.
So I don't blame him and his agent being frustrated, but I guess we'll see what happens in the upcoming games, I guess, for Van de Beek.
Yeah.
All with time, like I like to say. All right, one more fixture before we go, and we'll leave it best for last. Tommy Ciebos.
Yeah. So this Tottenham game, George left.
How was it? George did.
George left. Okay. It's okay. We'll still continue, and he'll just join again. But yeah, down to the nail. Not a high scoring game like Tottenham's been used to this season. And George is back. But still getting the victory. Having Son and Kane on fuego right now, with Son scoring his 8th, leading the league in goals. Kane with his 8 assists, leading the league in assists. These two now cannot be stopped every time they're playing. Obviously, I thought this game would be a lot more different. I thought we'd score a lot more goals. But when you play a team that plays 2 up top and 9 at the back, and all they're doing is spamming X, clearing the ball, like, it's hard to break that defense down and get any chances. So I knew it was going to be a tough game to get a goal. But we got it done. You have them 2 playing and healthy. I didn't expect anything less than them.
Very nice. Anthony, do you want to add to that?
No, I mean, Heung-min Son is world class. Harry Kane is world class. You deny it, you have no soccer intelligence. I don't know what to tell you. So they're huge difference makers on that team. They finally cracked that Burnley, if you want to call it back 10, because they're all playing defense. It's obviously tough to penetrate that, even despite no matter what team you are. So good for Tottenham for getting the 3 points.
Yeah, and that's another thing I wanted to mention before we go is that I guess now they're learning from their mistakes. Obviously, that last game, that 6-goal thriller with West Ham. Yes, it's good that they're scoring goals and going forward, but 3 points is 3 points, and that's what they got this weekend.
Oh, George.
That's
and Louis
it.
Scotch was shutout, Ant. There you go.
There you go.
Finally.
Is there anything else you guys wanted to add before we jet?
No, man, just EPL is up for grabs this season, the title.
For sure.
Don't know what's happening.
Absolutely. The emoji eyes are definitely there on the standings, let me tell you.
All right, guys. So with that concludes our PL segment. I want to thank everybody for tuning in and listening, following, supporting us as always. And as always, you can find our content on YouTube, Spotify, and you could always follow us on social media, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We're on there at 51 Formation. Thanks a lot, guys, and have a good night.
Ciao, guys.